below that. Mr. Speaker, I associate myself with the statement read by my brother and friend from Ofoyukrom, except that, and I commend him for the statement, except that when he was listing the fire outbreaks in the country, he failed to mention the two major ones that happened in my constituency, the Swami Magazine. Mr. Speaker, on the 27th of January 2025 and on the 1st of February 2025, yes, Mr. Speaker, we had two major fire outbreaks in the constituency, to the extent that Monday, when I came to this place, I had to leave and fly to Kumasi in the afternoon to go and inspect the place and see some of the victims. Mr. Speaker, indeed, the fire outbreaks are causing a lot of havoc across the length and breadth of the country, and it's causing loss of millions of Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, when I went to my constituency, the cost that these two fire outbreaks, the cost that they estimate, Mr. Speaker, is running into over 5 million Ghana cedis. And these are machines and oil. In fact, Mr. Speaker, bent. Mr. Speaker, people got injured. And so the problem my colleague is talking about is live and real, and we really need to look at that. Mr. Speaker, we may want to look at the causes of the fire. In my constituency, I am told that at Magazine, when people are going home in the evening, they make in the day, and then they will leave, and in the night, they can start fire. And in this one particular case, that was their suspicion. In another case, they were talking about those who smoke, in this case, not even cigarettes, weed, in and around some of these facilities. So people smoke the weed and leave the last, is it called joint? Yes. Last word, joint. They leave them, and then they can cause this fire. Mr. Speaker, the causes of the fire outbreak are a lot, but after the outbreak, what do? Mr. Speaker, we do not have fire hydrants, we do not have fire tenders, we do not have the facilities to fight these fires. My colleague was talking about the California fire, yes, but they have the equipment and the resources to fight these fires when they come out. In our case, we don't. Mr. Speaker, in the case of Swami, we only have 140 fire tender. I managed to give them one big motor bicycle to help them with their movement. But what it tells us is that we really need to invest in the fire hydrant. Now, if you wait, I may say something good for you. Mr. Speaker, today I started engaging some big people in the society. And I was happy to know that the President of the Republic, His Excellency Dramani Mahama, is willing to give Swami Magazine one fire hydrant, and that one fire tender, and that on Saturday, I'm going to meet this person in society, and when we get that at Swami Magazine, I believe that it will help us when the fire eventually breaks. But Mr. Speaker,
thank you.
Mr. Speaker, just 30 seconds before I go. You know, we have the Control and Prevention of Bushfires Act of 1990, Act 229, as legislators. We may want to go back and look at that law. Maybe it's about time we change some of the laws so that those who start these fires can be properly punished to serve as deterrent to others. Mr. Speaker, and on that I yield.
Thank you. Let me take the last round. Yes, Surveyor. John, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to associate with a statement made by our colleague and to thank him so much for bringing these things to the fore. I have been a victim of fire on one occasion in my home. I was just fortunate that I have a brave wife who was able to confront it head on, and before the fire service was even called in, she was able to put off the fire. Within that short space of about 5 minutes, so much was destroyed. It was as a result of a small boy at home lighting candle after light off, and it resulted in so much damage. So we want to look at what the fire service does to us in times of this nature. Of course, they always complain about the challenges they have with their facilities, the hydrants, even some of them without water in. And sometimes as a surveyor, we have challenge about how the fire service tender even gets to our individual homes because of the poor planning practices that we have had over the period. And so, in as much as we want the fire service to attend to us as quickly as possible and to help us salvage the situation we find ourselves in, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we need to look at our planning laws and not allow people to wantonly build on access roads that have been left based on our designs and planning. I had to physically destroy people's attempt to want to build on some of the roads to be able to maintain some law and order. Because sometimes going to the police or the planning authorities to come and put these things in order becomes a challenge. Because sometimes people go behind the scenes and do things that we cannot speak of on camera. Beyond that, I also believe that the workers themselves and the equipment they use as a government and as a society, we should always be conscious of whether they have the facilities they can use in fighting fire. During my election, I had the opportunity to meet my fire service unit in Sogakope, my district capital. And the report I got was that the last equipment that were bought for them was done at the time of the former president, His Excellency Evans Atta Mills. May his soul rest in perfect peace. Beyond his time, no serious investment had been made into the fire service as a unit. And sometimes, even if you go to their places of residence and offices, you lament that these are the people we want to come and help us fight fire at very short notice. I am personally helping them put up the office structure to make it more habitable. Maybe very soon I'll be done with that and then inaugurate or commission that. So in as much as we look at ourselves and the damage caused to our property, we may also want to look at the conditions they find themselves in as workers who we want to help us fight fire in times of need. I thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And I pray that together as a people will help resolve their issues of equipment, places of abode, and also their office space. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Dr. Mahama. Ralph, you've spoken today, so let me hear. Let me hear his voice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think sitting down whole day without clearing my throat may be problematic. But on this, let me first and foremost commend my friend for bringing to fore the discussion about fires. Mr. Speaker, the global context was set by my friend. Locally, is giving cases of fires that have ravaged properties, businesses. Mr. Speaker, the nature of fires are not just those that affect households, businesses, But much more important, for instance, rural community like or constituency like ours, is the bushfires that destroys farmlands and produce of farmers are gravely affected. Mr. Speaker, the national statistics on fire is staggering. Just between January and November last year, we have about 5,596 cases of fires. In contradistinction to the same period in 2023, that was a 6.5% jump in the cases. So the cases are not coming down. As a matter of fact, the bushfire cases are increasing. And the reported cases, these are just only reported cases. In many of the rural areas, our fire cases go unreported. And you would realize that if something is not done about it seriously, Mr. Speaker, we will have this issue. This year alone, just the first month, we are just in the second month, the cases of fire gives me an indication that if something is not done about it, we would have many more, the cases would have even increased more than last year that we have. Mr. Speaker, in my constituency, farmers have to deal with the migratory birds. And the north, if you like, is the food basket, and even rice farmers specifically. They are dealing with migratory birds as one of the first challenges, and Mr. Speaker, we'll be filing questions to that effect to the Agric Minister on how we can address that. But the second most important threat to the livelihood of farmers is wildfires, bushfires. Several hectares of farm fields have been destroyed due to fire outbreaks. But unfortunately, the fire service looks or appear helpless. When you contact them, they complain. While constituency, again, you realize that they don't even have fire tenders, offices, they don't have, like my colleague from Swami, I had to also support them with mobile, for instance, motorbikes in order for them to be able to do their work effectively. So, Mr. Speaker, we will have to look at that. How do we resource them? Even airtime for the Ghana Ambulance Service or Ghana Fire Service to be able to conduct public education and sensitization on fires, they don't have the resources, and we have to look at how do we resource them to be able to do this work for us. Mr. Speaker, last but not the least is the response to fires, the emergency, the disaster when it happens. NADMO is not ready all the time to come to the aid of these victims. And I think that we must have a national policy where these people, we can have even a dedicated fund, and I will support, if the need be, and if the government will agree, a dedicated funding source for us to use to address this emergency when they do occur. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. I come to leadership, and I learned the majority leadership is ceding DS to the member for Odododio. Kantamanto, is it located in Odododio?
Precisely.
Okay, so I've yielded the leadership, majority leadership to you.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am highly honored for this opportunity. My submission, as I draw authority from Order 93.5, will be brief. Mr. Speaker, it is indeed worrying that the rate at which fire is breaking out in the country without any form of control. Just September last year, Zongo Lane in Odododio, my constituency, experienced one of the most terrible encounters of fire outbreak, where a stretch from one junction to the other near the Rollins Park got gutted down. Fire got burned for about a week without the fire service being able to put the fire out. In the end, families have been dispersed, properties worth millions of dollars have all been razed down. Mr. Speaker, I believe we all know, we are all aware of the famous Chinatown, which harbored that were imported from China, also got burnt in that instance. Just this January, about a month ago, we experienced another very terrible fire outbreak from the famous Katamanton. Mr. Speaker, my amazement is the fact that we lack the capacity to put out fires when they break out. And I believe this is something that we ought to look at strategically. We really have to investigate into why fires start and we are unable to put it out till it erases everything down. In the case of Kantamanton, I admit we have lots of wooden structures over there which also catalyzed the fire. But, Mr. Speaker, amazingly, the Regional Fire Service post at Tudu was just in the proximity. Unfortunately, they found themselves helpless and they were unable to do anything about it. My inquiry, Mr. Speaker, established that in the first place, the fire hydrants all over the area were dried up, which is another matter we really need to look at because, Mr. Speaker, it looks like we have a serious water challenge in the city. A city such as Accra should not face such a situation. And I must say that in a constituency like Ododo-Diodio, which is in the center of the world, water do not flow in our taps. This is something that I'm sure we ought to look at and tackle with all seriousness. Mr. Speaker, the fire service officers told me in this regard that they do not have any modern equipment that will aid them put out fire. They established that the last time the fire service was equipped was in the era of the late President Professor Mills and His Excellency John Mahama, and that till date, they have not received any single equipment in order to facilitate their job. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I also think that the MMDA planning departments should also be called and questioned. They ought to do their work diligently because one of the major challenges has to do with planning.
Thank you.
Some way, somehow, fire tenders are not able to make their way to, the venues where fires break out. And it is one of the reasons why fires got burnt out and then we are not able to put them out. So please, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I also say that we need to look at this case of fire outbreaks seriously enough, just so we prevent the happenings. Finally, we don't get to see the reports of the investigations as conducted by the fire service and the police, which indicates the causative factors of such fires. I believe once the reports are out and we get to know, it will also aid, the public to help curb such occurrences.
Thank you so much. Yes. Lastly, the minority leadership. Are you also yielding? Yes. Member for Bekwai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, Doc, you wanted to speak?
I'm already up.
No, okay. Yes, Bekwai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first of all, when it comes to experience, I do not think that there is any member on this floor that has received his or her first share in terms of fire outbreak better than me. If I recount, on the 26th December 2018, I lost my personal home, my house, to fire at a fault that had nothing to do with me, but Ghana Electricity Company Limited. Mr. Speaker, my entire household, my house, was razed down by fire in 2018. And this is a matter of public information. So I understand how it feels to lose or to be a victim of a fire outbreak. That being said, what I want to raise on this floor, three main issues. First of all, the fact that our national service, that institution, is grossly under-resourced. And why do I say that? Fire service station, Mr. Speaker, was about a minute or 2 minutes walk away from my house. When this incident was happening, it took us less than 5 minutes to walk to a fire service station. And Mr. Speaker, believe it or not, there was no water in their truck. The truck was not functioning. And the worst of it all, you couldn't even make complaint to them. That you have to make the complaint to the national, for national to relay information to the district, for the district to relay information to that particular Sherman substation, which is closer to Trasaco. So, Mr. Speaker, the problem or the issue has nothing to do with post-fire evaluation or what have you. It is simply a case of looking at how the fire service can be resourced. Mr. Speaker, I think this is a clarion call on the government, first off, to see how they can put in adequate resources to help our fire service to function. Because, Mr. Speaker, taking this to my constituency, just last 2 weeks, I have had to take my personal money to buy an engine for our fire service to put in their truck to be able to serve my constituency, which shouldn't be the case. To add to that, I have had to buy my megaphones and other facilities to be able to get them on their tracks or to be able to put them out there to provide education to my constituents how to arrest or how to prevent fire outbreaks. So this, to me, adding on to the beautiful and wonderful presentation by my colleague from Oforikrom, with what my colleague lawyer from Swami has said.
Mr. Timekeeper, your time is up.
Yes, so Mr. Speaker, to sum it up, I believe that much as we are arguing that the government should do something about it, I feel that what the government must do is to look at resourcing the fire service to be able to do their job properly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And if I'm given the opportunity, perhaps I'll also present a paper on this to enhance this argument, because, Mr. Speaker, this is a canker that must be arrested with immediate effect. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, leadership, are you taking the last one or you can make it tomorrow?
Okay, let's take it. One. Take it one. Mr. Speaker, we'll take the last statement.
Very well.
And just one. Yeah, the last one. And then we'll call it a day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, Yes, my brother, I'm just looking at your statement. But,
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
yes. Honorable Geoffrey Kinney. Yes, let's hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to make this statement on renewed clashes in my constituency in Kwanta South, which have resulted in the loss of many precious lives. And as a third termer of this good house, I deem it extremely necessary and a duty to draw the attention of this august house to the renewed clashes so that, with your kind support, this recurring conflict can be permanently solved. Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, let me state that the constituency is a municipality in Oti region, recently carved out of Volta. The renewed clashes are between the Adeles, Achudes, Chalas, and a Muslim group in Nkwanta. The conflict happened as a result of a dispute over unclear land boundaries among the feuding factions and tribes. Mr. Speaker, may I use this occasion to report to the House that a total of 22 precious lives had been lost since 2022. And as I make this statement, the entire township of Nkwanta has been deserted, turning the place into a ghost town. Government institutions such as banks, schools, hospitals are not functioning fully, while general economic activities and social life has grounded to a halt. As most people have fled from the municipality to avoid further loss of lives and property, other forms of violence perpetrated by the various factions includes attack on farms, destruction of shops, and burning of houses. Mr. Speaker, at this juncture, let me use this occasion to congratulate and to commend the security agencies comprising of the police, military, fire, and the immigration officers, as well as NADMO, whose personnel were able to work tirelessly to restore law and order. May I also add that the continued presence of these security agencies has immensely contributed in subsiding the hostilities considerably. It is my fervent prayer that the military will remain in the municipality for some time until calm is fully restored. Mr. Speaker, instead of applying peaceful means and dialogue to solve these misunderstandings, the factions have resorted to violence, resulting in the loss of innocent lives. Indeed, the conflict has taken a deep toll on the people, and until total peace is restored, economic, social, and educational activities cannot proceed in a normal way. In finding a lasting solution to the conflict, let us do well to take into account all the various factors that directly or indirectly tend to fuel dispute at various places. This includes social exclusion or marginalization, extreme politicization of issues, lack of trust, and suspicion of public officials by the different tribes. Let me add that a comprehensive approach which takes into account all the above factors is the surest way to resolve the conflicts in Nkwanta South. Right, Honorable Speaker, As the incumbent member of parliament of the constituency, I wish to pledge my fullest support and commitment to every effort that will be made to bring peace to the area. On my part, I have so far played a neutral role as a peacemaker by doing all in my power to apply communication to draw their attention to the urgent need for dialogue and the negative impact of violence on the constituency. In addition, I wish to request that a special committee be constituted by the appropriate authorities to critically and dispassionately delve into all the issues with the sole aim of finding a lasting solution. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I would like to sympathize with the bereaved families, those who have lost their properties and displaced, and to plead with all factions to hang their gloves while efforts are being made to bring peace. I therefore call for the kind support of charitable organizations to come to our aid. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you once again for this opportunity. Thank you.
Yes, let me start from the military man, Colonel.
Speaker,
Colonel Damwa.
the sense of the house, the mood of the house is that because it's a bit late, so I'm just pleading with my brother that we should, instead of 1-1 as agreed, let's do 2-2.
No problem.
Let's do 2-2. I plead with you. 2-2.
You can do even 1-3. Don't worry. Colonel, let's hear you. 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity given to me to contribute towards the statement made by my honorable friend from the other side. Mr. Speaker, conflicts and disputes of all types are creating problems for all of us. And it behoves on all of us to try to find very lasting solutions to these conflicts. There are no conflicts with the same or similar ingredients. They may vary from particular areas to others. So there may be peculiarities about some specific conflicts. And we need to delve so much into them to find the real root causes and the appropriate solutions to make sure that we find lasting solutions to these problems. As they keep recurring, they take different dimensions. Their consequences are unimaginable, the intended and unintended ones alike. Mr. Speaker, oftentimes when these problems occur, instead of all of us, especially those directly in those conflict areas, coming together to find solutions to them, we tend to mix them up with other considerations, such as, in some cases, political considerations. And once we bring politics into some of these matters, then they become intractable and difficult to resolve. The case of Nkwanta, unfortunately, has been recurring. And I'm happy that our brother, who is a member of parliament for that area, is bringing it to the fore of this parliament for all of us to have a look at it and see how best we can resolve these disputes. I know that they appreciate the efforts by the security services, but the security services have a limit to what they can do. The disputing parties are the ones who really hold the key to the solutions to these problems. As long as they are prepared, willing, and able to allow some of the tensions to calm down and have a spirit of forgiveness and tolerance, it becomes easier for the security services and other stakeholders to find solutions to these problems. But oftentimes, the problem occurs, we find ad hoc solutions to them, we try to manage the solution, the disputes in a manner that will appease some interest groups, and then without getting to the root causes of the problems, then they recur. And we go in once again with the security services. And that may not help matters. So what may be useful in this context is to have some mediation efforts from people who may not be directly related to the conflict or may not have interest in the conflict, and then with the cooperation, assistance, and preparedness of the parties involved to find solutions, we are better placed to do so. He said a lot, and I believe he means well, but on his own, probably it will be difficult for him to find solutions to these problems. I have had an opportunity to visit the area when I was Commissioner for Customs, and I had the opportunity to learn about some of the challenges there. So these are matters that when they start, it becomes very, very difficult to manage them. Mr. Speaker, in 1985, I was a very young man, a platoon commander, a lieutenant in the army, and we had the Kusasi Mamprusi crisis for the first time in Boku. I was one of the first officers sent there to manage the conflict. 1985, up to today, we still have that conflict. So I'm just drawing the attention of the members that once a conflict erupts, if we don't try hard to go to the basic roots of the causes of these problems and find objective means of solving them, we take sides, it becomes very, very difficult to solve them, especially when partisan matters are mixed with customary, land, and other matters. It then becomes difficult for you to go in because you'll be thinking about the votes that you may get from one side. And if you are not careful, then you become a victim yourself, and you're unable to offer very pragmatic, objective solutions to the problems and challenges of the area. I sympathize with my brother, and I hope that all of us would take this matter as a serious one and find a lasting solution to that problem. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, I'll begin with the lady.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this heartbreaking statement made by Honorable Geoffrey Kinney, MP for Nkwanta South Municipality or constituency. Mr. Speaker, like the honorable member from the other side said, this conflict started about 30 years ago when I was a border patrol officer in Nkwanta. When the conflict started, it was between two tribes, the Achodes and the Chalas. Mr. Speaker, there were no killings about 15 years ago. But of late, what has happened is that anytime there was this conflict, when another tribe, when a person from another tribe is killed, then that tribe joins the conflict. So initially, it was between the Chalas and the Achodes. An Adele man was killed, then the Adeles joined. Of late, a Muslim has been killed, then the Muslims joined. So we need to actually look at the actors of this conflict. The primary actors, those who are involved in the conflict, and then those who are also having interest, the secondary actors, and then the others who hide behind the conflict. They hide behind the conflict to do the killings. They are the shadow actors. Mr. Speaker, in every conflict, the shadow actors are more dangerous than the people who are involved in the conflict. What is happening is that when people are arrested, when this conflict began, proper investigations are done, and then the culprits are left unpunished. That's why this continues. Mr. Speaker, in Nkwanta municipality, they are farmers. Now people are afraid even to go to activities. It's also another commercial center. When it comes to marketing, Nkwanta market is a very big market on Mondays and Tuesdays. Mr. Speaker, unless we actually look at what to do about the shadow actors who are hiding behind this conflict and to deal with them, this conflict in Nkwanta will never end. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this assembly, as a result of this conflict, this assembly is struggling. The MP has put his personal resources in giving relief items to the victims. Last year, when this conflict started, the items that were meant for the flood victims, almost half of the items were given to this conflict victims. So there's a backlog of flood victims who have not received their items. Just last week, the RCC, the Regional Coordinating Council, is complaining. They've run out of resources for even this conflict victims. The disassembly has run out. They cannot even generate, funds from the IDF. They can't. So the time has come for the National Peace Council and all stakeholders to come together to adopt, Mr. Speaker, a more proactive reconciliation or peacemaking approach so that Nkwanta will once again be a peaceful place for the people to be able to go about their normal activities or duties. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Yes, my brother.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to sympathize with my senior colleague from Nkwanta. And I want to speak on this subject matter passionately because as a country, to my view, we're mostly interested in curative measures either than the preventive measures that will not put us into such situations. We cannot talk about indigenous conflicts in Ghana when we leave out land and land boundaries. Traveling somewhere in Africa, land administration system alone has been able to cure a lot of conflicts among tribes. But as a country, we are looking at a conflict which is a result of something, but we are not looking at what is causing that result. When you look at conflicts that we can mention of like Nkunya, Alavanyo, Peki, Chito, all these conflicts are as a result of land disputes. If as a country we can put measures in demarcating clear boundaries of traditional areas and within and among tribes, I think we would have been curing parts largely of the conflicts that we would have been curing today. Mr. Speaker, countries came to Ghana and then went into this land administration system and were able, through mediation and conciliation, set out boundaries that would have resulted into conflicts. Then as a country, why should we wait for these conflicts to arise for us to be putting in measures such as applying the security forces to cure the conflict, whilst immediately the security forces move out, the conflicts come back again? It is about time, as we try as much as possible to cure the ones we are seeing now, we should, as a house, bring out policies that will instill the kind of boundary disciplines we want to have among the people of Ghana so as to cure this kind of conflicts. I would be glad if the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources would move into these areas as soon as possible and meet with the traditional leaders. For what I know about tradition, whatever is even spoiled can still be cured and it becomes the tradition of the next generation. And if we move in that, throughout the country, we would have solved a lot of conflict. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Yes, Honorable Ejura.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to support the statement made by my good friend, Honorable Kini, MP from Nkwanta South. Mr. Speaker, let me use this opportunity to commend the security services for the support they've given to that community. Mr. Speaker, we all know that this conflict at Nkwanta South is between 3 different community or tribes, where we have the Adelis, the Chodis, and the Chalas, all because of land. Land has been a source of conflict in many areas within this country and outside the country. Mr. Speaker, my community, which my colleague has just mentioned, Chito and Peki, has been in conflict for some time now. Mr. Speaker, all because of a piece of land. And I believe that that piece of land, which has gone through some form of litigation over the years, and judgment has been given to one side or the other, and currently is still at appeal court for determination. Mr. Speaker, I want to plead with any case concerning other stool land, family land, or traditional land that has been with the court that has not been litigated or resolved. Let's have mechanism to resolve it as early as possible. And let me also state that the cost of maintaining security services in a particular conflict zone is so huge. We cannot continue spending our taxpayers' money just to resolve conflict in either land litigation or whatever. The Member of Parliament has mentioned that he has spent so much of his own resources because the assembly is not working. I believe my colleague from Pusiga, my colleague from Boku, and my colleague from all these conflict areas have spent so much of their own resources. And we need to have permanent solution to some of this thing. And I believe apart from the mediation that we are talking about, apart from putting committees that will resolve this thing, the resolution should come from the people themselves. Why should someone claim ownership of the land? Another person also come and said, we were here before you. In some cases, it is not because someone was there before you came. It is all because somebody has married into a family and they decide to give the land to the person with the land. And when the children of those generations comes up and say, oh, we just married into this family, we gave it to farm here, now it's give our lands back to us, it becomes conflict. Mr. Speaker, I heard my colleague recently, as I went up, Honorable Dakamekpo, made a statement where, to the effect that a particular land where Chitos and Pekis have been fighting, the Dedo land, has been a subject of litigation for all this year, and that it was originally with the Pekis. That infuriated my people, and the whole Asafo troop came up, made a press conference, and they were going to marshal to Peki for another war again. So sometimes our own political leadership, what we say, also can infuriate people. So I want to plead with all of us. When we are making statements, we should be careful of what we said. Let's be factual in the things that we say. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you. I think, okay, he's the only person up now, so let me give it to him, and that will be the farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me use the opportunity to thank the maker of the statement and also commend all others who have contributed to this statement. This Nkwanta conflict started maybe around 1970. till now. In the past, when it began, what happened was those in the conflict could travel to the courts on one vehicle. But there was no problem. There was no violence. But as the years go by, things are getting worse. And I think that is where we should be very careful. Mr. Speaker, the unfortunate situation is that with the years going by, it has now transcended to loss of lives. And at this point, 22 lives have been lost. As we speak, when you get to Nkwanta, the place is like a cemetery because people are just afraid, and a lot of them have fled. Schools have remained closed, markets closed, stores have been vandalized, and everybody is running helter-skelter for his dear life. Mr. Speaker, the implication of what is happening will be too dear to this nation. That is the more reason why it is very important we take urgent steps to make sure that the situation is nipped in the bud. As we speak now, the security forces are doing their own on the ground. We only need to encourage them to step up their games, whilst government take the necessary steps to bring finality to this particular conflict. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. I hope leadership will forgo their comments. We are tied, and therefore my comment to leadership is to give me directives as to how you.
Mr. Speaker, you are right. It's been a long day. So we are in your hands, and we will be glad if you call it a day.
Well, leadership, when are we coming tomorrow? Is it 10 or 12?
12. All right. Mr. Speaker, 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock. Honorable members. Yes, minority leadership.
Mr. Speaker, we are amenable to 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock, yes. Very well. So, honorable members, let me thank you very much for your cooperation. You've gone beyond the normal time. So, as leadership have indicated, we are coming back tomorrow at 12 noon, or 12 o'clock in the forenoon, as we normally put it. So, on that note, I will thank you once again, and the House is accordingly adjourned.